And now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, we wish to thank Ms. Nazhat Shamim Khan, Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, for her briefing. We welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of the Republic of Sudan in this session. More than 20 years after having referred the Darfur file to the ICC, we have not yet achieved tangible results. This in spite of the fact that some progress has been made in a number of cases linked to this file, as demonstrated by the 41st report of the prosecutor. Given the evolution of the situation in Darfur, and namely since the eruption of the current conflict more than 2 years ago, justice and accountability remain the basis of all overarching solutions to the conflict. Against that backdrop, my delegation wishes to reaffirm the following. Firstly, the court, in its endeavours, must bear in mind the existence of a transitional justice and accountability process as part of the efforts made to bring about peace in Darfur. In order to achieve that goal, all means at our disposal must be channeled towards the revitalization and the strengthening of national legal provisions and mechanisms so that the process as a whole are led by and owned by the Sudanese people. To achieve that goal, we need to attach priority to national action, ensuring that we stringently adhere to the principles of complementarity and subsidiarity where the ICC is concerned. Doing this and achieving that goal also involves establishing the bases for cooperation and partnership which are necessary with both international and regional actors. Against that backdrop, we commend the spirit of cooperation seen on the part of the Sudanese government with the Office of the Prosecutor and other relevant bodies. We also hail efforts made by the government of Sudan in order to implement the National Protection of Civilians Plan. The rule of law and human rights are among the primary pillars of that very plan. Allow me to make my second point. It is important to ensure that our work draws on existing frameworks that is, at a national and regional level, in order to achieve our desired goals in terms of accountability which has Sudanese ownership and leadership. The Juba Peace Agreement and the African Union provisions are two entry points for the creation of mechanisms able to help us to achieve an ideal solution in this regard. It is for that reason that the international community must lend sufficient support to these efforts. Elsewhere, the Sudanese stakeholders must continue at the same time to comply with relevant frameworks. My third point, the evolution of the situation in the brotherly country of Sudan, and more specifically in Darfur, since the eruption of the current conflict in April 2023, cannot be overlooked as we seek to see accountability and to prosecute the perpetrators of crimes and abuses against civilians. And as we prosecute all those responsible for grave violations of international law, including IHL. By way of example, the Rapid Support Forces have not hitherto respected Resolution 2736. These forces continue to besiege the city of Fasher, where hundreds of thousands of defenseless civilians live, in a devastating humanitarian situation. In light of that very fact, we must ensure stringent adherence to the law. The same thing applies to the crimes perpetrated against humanitarian personnel and against civilian infrastructure, more specifically hospitals. Indeed, the crimes in question may constitute war crimes. These are grave violations which may constitute war crimes. As such, it is necessary to prosecute the perpetrators of these crimes. There is external support for the perpetrators of these crimes being waged against civilians in Darfur. This is something which contributes directly to the current situation. For that reason, we once again call for an end to be put to all forms of foreign intervention in Sudan. It is necessary to condemn these interventions openly and staunchly because they are directly contributing to the aforementioned violations. Mr. President, all efforts to bring about peace in Sudan, including to establish transitional justice and accountability frameworks, must be undertaken with absolute stringent respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Sudan. To conclude, we call for dialogue and for the guns to fall silent in order to achieve a lasting solution to the conflict between our Sudanese brothers and in order to protect civilians. As such, we fully support the efforts made both by the African Union and by the United Nations. I thank you.
Thank the representative of Algeria for the statement.